when you lose a game like that, there's additional context. And that context right there, it says you didn't just lose to UCLA. You got manhandled by UCLA. A team that lost to UNLV, a team that lost to New Mexico. No disrespect to those programs, but you understand exactly what I'm saying when I say those are the programs that are beating UCLA, and Penn State walks into town and gets pushed around. I thought I knew James Franklin. I thought most of us knew what James Franklin is, what Penn State as a program are, that they're going to be able to beat the teams that they should be beating, and they're going to lose to the teams that they probably will lose to. It's the whole notion of you can't beat them in the top 10, but if you're outside of that, you're probably losing to Penn State. It's because of their identity. It's because they have very good talent on this program, and everything had built up to 2025. We all knew this. You brought back Drew Aller. He didn't go to the NFL draft. He stayed around. You have Andy Kotelnicki again. Once again, an offensive coordinator. You have continuity with the OC quarterback. We talk about it all the time, how imperative that is to success. We talk about it with Texas A&M and Colin Klein and Marcel Reed. That continuity is huge. You bring back two tailbacks that are going to be at bare minimum day 2 picks on the NFL draft. That's primarily because running back isn't as valued with Nicholas Singleton and Katron Allen. Then you have a defense that sure did lose Abdul Carter. But then you bring in Jim Knowles, a defensive coordinator that just won a national championship with Ohio State, and that was the core, the centerpiece of what was so successful outside of like Jeremiah Smith, obviously just frying defenses, but their defense is what I think won them a championship, that turnaround in the college football playoff. All of these ingredients. And then you have this setup, and I almost want to take it as what we saw with the whiteout game expanded across the season, because it's starting to become a theme where Penn State has the quarterback continuity, they have the talent on the roster, they have seniority, they have good coaches, or at least we thought were good coaches across the board with Franklin, Kotelnicki, and Knowles. If you take what was supposed to happen with the whiteout, you can spread it across the season. Because the whiteout, they had the bye week, they had the night whiteout, which is something they didn't have for a while because of Big Noon Kickoff. They have the team, they have the roster, they have a team traveling all the way from the West Coast all the way to Penn State. You lose that one, so you have to follow it up. And the makeup of a team is truly defined by how you lose and how you react to that loss. I understand you have to travel to California after having that big emotional loss in overtime. You were right there to come all the way back against Dan Lanning and the Oregon Ducks. You were that close. But you still have to have the makeup and the maturity as a program to go beat an 0-4 UCLA program. 0-4. That is the first time in 40 years a top 10 team has lost to an 0-4 program. 40 years. It became a conversation where we're talking about James Franklin and is he ever going to get over the hump? And I talked about it a little bit today where I said it is much easier to have someone go up and grab your ankle versus you do the same. What do I mean by that? I'm talking about James Franklin. It's much easier or more likely that Penn State was to lose to, say, one of the teams like a UCLA, maybe even a Michigan State, a team that they shouldn't be losing to. That's more likely than them going up and getting an Ohio State, Michigan back in their prime, or even an Oregon at this point. And it's not even the beginning of the conversation with James Franklin. It is now we are in the middle of it. And I really don't see a path where you go around and you say, yep, he's our guy. Maybe you're just that afraid of bottoming out because it is a risky decision. It's kind of like say, for example, I talked about it on TikTok where I said a comparison for James Franklin is kind of like Dak Prescott with the Cowboys. Now, obviously, I said this before they had lost to UCLA. but I still think it applies here. You have a great quarterback. James Franklin, for what he was able to build at Penn State, was a great transition to build this program to a 10-win. Now it's probably going to be 9 wins, but a higher level program, almost getting to a national championship last year. But do you feel like he's going to get you over the hump or just right on the cusp? 85%, 70% of what your goal is. And are you okay with that? But that all goes away if you lose to UCLA. Now, we don't do what Josh Pate does, which is the Sarah McLachlan special, playing the sad music because of how bad they got beat down. I'm just going to present the facts, because the facts state that not only did Penn State lose to an 0-4 UCLA program, but there is additional context that make it even more egregious than it already was. Because on surface level, you just see, well, they had to go on the road to California. They lost to a UCLA team that's bad. No. They had an interim head coach that had 2 practices. The first time he's ever calling plays. There's 2 instances in that football game where he forgot to bring the mic down to call the play. He is of 33 years of age. 2 practices to install what they want to do against a Penn State program that isn't just a bunch of fresh faces trying to gel together for the first time. They have the continuity there, very similar to what we were talking about with Clemson. Not only was it just like a close game by the end, it was 27-7 at halftime, breaking a 34 straight wins against unranked teams for James Franklin. I've already mentioned the first time an 0-4 team to beat a top 10 AP team in 40 years. Mind you, UCLA also was 10 of 16 on third down. They outrushed Penn State 280 yards to 127. They out-timed them, if that's the way you want to call it, with time of possession of 39 minutes and 17 seconds to 20 minutes and 43. When you lose a game like that, there's additional context. And that context right there says, you didn't just lose to UCLA. You got manhandled by UCLA. A team that lost to UNLV, a team that lost to New Mexico. No disrespect to those programs, but you understand exactly what I'm saying when I say those are the programs that are beating UCLA, and Penn State walks into town and gets pushed around. There's only so much that an interim head coach magic can do when we're talking about, turning a program around. Maybe it's a Power 4 win. Teams don't do this. Now, understandably so, Nico Imalava was the better quarterback. Drew Aller, I've said it at least for a year and a half, specifically when I dove into his tape, that was like the jump that he took last year. The guy doesn't look comfortable playing quarterback. He looks like a guy that is going through each step of playing quarterback. Very similar to what we are seeing with Arch right now, where it is not kind of flowing with the game. That was the difference between him and Dante Moore, honestly. Dante looked comfortable playing the game of football, looked smooth, where it seems kind of, all right, we're going from 1, we're going to snap the ball, we're going to take our 3 steps, 1, 2, 3, then we're going to look here, we're going to make our decision, then we're going to look here, make our decision, versus we're just going to go. If I take 1 extra step, I take 1 extra step, but I'm going to get the ball out. And that's something that I think has limited Drew Aller, because at what point do we stop using the narrative of, well, he does have the wide receivers? Maybe they don't. Maybe Trevor Pena was not worth the money that they probably paid out. But that was supposed to be the big fix. And I think one of the red flags I did think about when watching that game was, as soon as the transfer portal opened, a bunch of Penn State wide receivers dipped out. Now, were they good? Probably not. I don't know what, I believe his name's Harrison Wallace doing right now. But I also think that it was a crutch for a lot of people to say, well, Drew Aller, he didn't have the wide receivers. He makes some beautiful throws, so let's give him grace. I can't give him grace anymore. I wasn't giving him grace before. So much credit to UCLA. And if you have not taken the time to go watch how they celebrated that game, it's like straight out of a movie. Carrying the coach on their shoulders. A 33-year-old. There's a picture of him when he was a kicker, I believe, getting carried off. 10 or 11 years later, doing the same thing. Guy forgot to call in plays, and James Franklin got outcoached by him with 2 practices in. It truly is one of those things where I don't know if I should credit the UCLA coach for being able to do that, or look at James Franklin, the tenured guy, the guy that's supposed to be able to do it this year, and just go and say, what happened? And you could see it's beginning to bubble in terms of the pressure that this Penn State program has. You see Drew Aller snapping back at some reporters. Like, I could not believe my eyes when I saw that they were up 27-7 at halftime. I didn't even predict this game. Didn't think it was going to happen. I didn't think it was going to be anywhere close. If anything, I was potentially looking at, for my best bets, to take Penn State to cover. Thank God I didn't do that. But I think it's time. And to recap it all, just to say, Penn State, you have to change it. Franklin was able to rebuild the program from the ground up. He deserves more credit than he probably will get. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if you pull things like this. And if you're not the guy that's going to go win a championship, and that's what you want Penn State to be, as a national championship winning head coach and program, I don't think Franklin's the guy.